Elon Musk says he is not anti-Semitic, and he wants you to know. Musk took to X and to push back against critics accusing him of endorsing anti-Semitic conspiracy theories on Sunday, saying, "This past week, there were hundreds of bogus media stories claiming that I am anti-Semitic. Nothing could be further from the truth. I wish only the best for humanity and a prosperous and exciting future for all."
The fallout comes after Musk appeared to espouse anti-Semitic tropes, according to some online. One X-user posted that Jews are promoting hatred against white people and back bringing hordes of minorities to Western civilization, to which Musk replied to that tweet, "You have said the actual truth." Musk then sought to clarify comments that had landed him in hot water, posting, as I said earlier, this week, decolonization from the river to the sea and similar euphemisms necessarily imply genocide. Clear calls for extreme violence are against our terms of service and will result in suspension. So him saying those are not terms you can express on X.
Musk's comments resulted in condemnation from the media, lawmakers, and big corporations, including Disney, Apple, IBM, and others who have all pulled advertising from X. Meanwhile, the Washington Post published a damning report of Musk, blaming him for supercharging escalating anti-Semitism online. The outlet maintains Musk's loosening of standards on content has contributed to more incendiary comments targeting Jews in the aftermath of October 7th.
So there's a lot to discuss here. And frankly, I do think a lot of this framing has been somewhat unfair to Musk. I will say the initial tweet that got him in trouble was not a good tweet, and he should not have appeared to endorse the message. What that user was saying, I think, and said it in very crude fashion and not a fashion I endorse at all, the sort of Washington Post is saying it's great replacement theory. What the person is actually saying, or trying to say, or whatever, this is the better version of what the person is trying to say, is that organizations like the ADL, which Musk is in this huge feud with, similarly to these, big donors to Harvard and other places who are now really mad about what they're describing as the climate for Jewish people, have been silent on a lot of other issues related to identity and race that conservatives care about. And so if you want, those people on the right are saying, we're not so interested in coming to your defense now because you haven't backed us up in the past. I think that's what Elon was trying to get at there. Obviously, it was not a good tweet, so we should totally disclaim that. But now this Washington Post story, which is very long and very thorough, is also, I think, very bad and is buying into a lot of these ADL. I mean, the ADL is quoted in here saying that since October 7th, anti-Semitic content has surged more than 900% on X, and there have been more than 1,000 incidents of real-world anti-Semitic attacks, vandalism, and harassment in America, according to the ADL. So they're saying they're drawing an explicit connection here between a 900% increase on X in anti-Semitic content and real-world incidents of violence and vandalism. The disclaimer follows. That includes about 200 rallies the group, the ADL, deemed to be at least implicitly supporting Hamas. So you see, I'm sure you'll agree, they're saying those rallies that again, we disagree on them, whatever. I don't like the rallies either. I don't support the messaging. They're saying that's anti-Semitic, and that counts for this tally. That is producing the real-world violence that is now being used to condemn Elon Musk.
So they're doing a lot of sophistry here. There's a statistic that's been floating around that the ADL has been pushing that says some overwhelming majority of religious hate crimes are against Jewish people. This is evidence of, again, this ratcheting up and all of this stuff. And I thought about it for a second. Obviously, at first I think, wow, that's terrible. And then I thought, well, this is a predominantly Christian nation. What are the biggest religious minorities in the United States that are not Christian? And of course, it's Judaism. So one would perhaps expect that most religious hate crimes, it's not all hate crimes. You hear the statistic and you think to yourself, oh, most hate crimes are against Jewish people. No, the statistic is most religious hate crimes are against Jewish people as opposed to other religions, which might just reflect the demographic reality of what the biggest religious groups are outside of the main religious group in the United States of America. Yeah,
I've criticized the way the ADL specifically tallies these things a lot in the past, because when you look closely, you see a lot to pick at. One year where there was a massive increase in anti-Semitic threats was all done by a deranged Israeli teenager who was calling up schools and hospitals to call in bomb threats. So it was not, which is very bad, but like no one would disagree that was bad.
But it wasn't a systemic problem. It's just an outlier.
Any change.
Yeah. So, but to me, the bigger story here is, I'm sorry, what on earth is Elon Musk doing? He's trying to have it both ways here. So I agree. Like, look, I honestly do think that Elon Musk has, because of tweets like these, made it clear that this is a website where he supports a kind of language and discourse and that has become more normative on the site, like endorsing this tweet that talked about Jewish people supporting, quote, hordes of minorities and promoting hatred against the whites. You can't get around that Elon Musk said absolutely right about that tweet, and that he says absolutely right about tweets like that he promotes libs of TikTok, that he very consciously is cultivating a very different, more right-wing culture on the site. Advertisers might not like that. I don't know if the ADL stats on what's going on Twitter are accurate or overblown or exaggerated, but Elon Musk has to kind of deal with his own housekeeping if he wants to resist the narrative that Twitter is becoming a more right-wing and less hospitable place for advertisers. He's got to look in the mirror on that a little bit. However, in the wake of this controversy, as he was getting condemnation from the White House and all of these articles are being published about how he's an anti-Semite, the next morning, Jonathan Greenblatt, head of the ADL, who has been enemy number one, who Elon Musk threatened to sue just a few weeks ago or a couple of months ago, whenever that was,
right?
He tweets, oh, well, now we're on good terms now. Elon Musk does his tweet about how words like decolonization and the phrase from the river to the sea necessarily imply genocide and are violations of his terms of service, and that you will get suspended or banned if you use that language on his free speech app. Jonathan Greenblatt retweets that and says, this is an important and welcome move by Elon Musk. I appreciate this leadership in fighting hate. So it seems clear that Elon Musk ultimately bent the knee to the very party he said was ruining his finances, bringing down the site and lying about the anti-Semitic content on the site. Ultimately, as much as he wants to chest beat and talk about how he's going to stand up for free speech rights, immediately he kowtowed, it seems, to the interest of Jonathan Greenblatt and the ADL, and said, I'm going to undermine my most key principle, the reason why I spent billions of dollars on this website, free speech, and say, I'm actually going to make speech that needs to be hotly debated. Whatever you think about the river to the sea as a phrase, it's a phrase that should be and is being debated in other places in the world, but that's a debate that he's saying cannot happen on Twitter. So,
yeah, I agree with you. It is a bad move to say that you can't utter those phrases on social media. It clearly violates what Elon Musk says it should be the culture on Twitter, a free speech culture. He has been an insincere champion, I would say at best, of the stated principles he laid out when he acquired it. All that said, you have to put a lot of the blame here on the influence that the ADL has, and the pernicious influence, something I've been calling out. I mean, when we talked about this last time during the lawsuit, I was very critical. I said the ADL is very dishonest and is putting Elon in a bad place by leveraging all these advertisers to cut ties, and which they're allowed to do. But what they are saying and what they're claiming about Twitter has a lot I don't trust, because of their long history of exaggerating or mistallying hate crime and anti-Semitic statistics. That's what I said when we talked about this.
Yeah,
right?
I think that's fair. The ADL is bad, but when we were disagreeing at that time, for me, it's that regardless of what the ADL says, there is real stuff that everyone can observe and see. And I wish there was someone other than the ADL who was putting forth some of this analysis. Elon Musk can't just blame the ADL singularly on his image problem.
Media matters too.
Sure, but especially, Elon Musk said absolutely A-OK, my stamp of approval, under a tweet that was talking about Jews welcoming hordes of, hordes of minorities and promoting hatred against whites. And that is not an outlier endorsement from Elon Musk. That is exactly the kind of tweet he routinely and repeatedly signal boosts and says righty-ho to. So that's my only point, that his claim that his numbers are down solely because of the ADL, I think it doesn't hold up, even if the ADL has for a long term been a bad faith actor.
Washington Post, a bad faith actor here too, because they're trying to all say there's a rise of not attributed to Elon Musk, but they're actually including in that the ADL's stats. Like, it's totally all over the place.
Well, one other thing I will say though is that The ADL is flinging these everywhere. To your point about all of these pro-Palestinian protesters and groups, they said that the Jewish group protesting are also anti-Semitic. So they're really, they've gone off on a lark. But the pro-Palestinian groups that are getting those kinds of accusations are standing up, pushing back, and continue to protest. That is not what Elon Musk has done. And so why, ADL is a problem. There's something really instructive about who believes in what they're saying, who really supports speech rights, who is a really principled advocate, and who ultimately just do what it needs to make money on an app. Principles are secondary to that project.
Yeah, I mean, he's trying to run a business that's lost billions and billions and billions of dollars as the ADL
already
has
happened. Do you know what I mean? If these kids on college campuses can be banned and then show up at the dean's house the next day and do another rally, devil may care, have their long-term prospects damaged by billboards and billionaires targeting them, and the world can't even stand strong after he's already lost $22 billion worth of wealth. What more? I don't know. I think there's an interesting realignment happening here about who really cares about speech in America.
We'll have to leave it there. More Rising right after this.